GM, welcome to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. Don't get caught in the hype cycle. I'm Karita, joined by today's co-host, which is Zeneca. Jay is actually on vacation. I think he's snowboarding or skiing in Denver, I believe, or Colorado. I can't remember where he is, but he's somewhere having a great time. So we are grateful, very grateful to have Zeneca join us, who's been on the show many, many times. I think maybe this is your fourth or your fifth time joining.
No.
Yeah, but first time on the roll-up?
First time on this one.
First time on the roll-up. Nice. Well, we got a lot of news to cover today. There's a lot going on. We'll start with the Fed pivot. This is exciting. So not an actual pivot, but there's some good news coming out of the Fed, some inflation stuff that we'll talk about in the market watch. Although it looks like our party might be getting wrecked just a little bit just before we clicked record here. Some wildness is going on in the crypto world. And so it's kind of taking a dump, but we'll talk about what's going on there. There's some big potential exploits that we will cover. Then we're going to talk about airdrop season and actually some caution to be aware, because there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of potential for big risks. So we want to make sure you guys are covered and don't get wrecked once again. Then the L2 Mania, so much going on in the L2 world, in the modular world. So we'll cover some big launches going on in that world. Trump is launching an NFT. We will briefly cover that. Pudgy Penguins launched some really cool things. Coinbase is shipping and they're mooning. I think they're up over $150 now. That has been one of the best assets of the year. There's just so much going on in this space, but let's not get too excited. Let's just calm down, take a deep breath, and let's practice some gratitude. So Zeneca, welcome to the show, first of all, but also why don't you share some gratitude? What are you grateful for today?
What am I grateful for? It's a good question. I love that you start the shows with this, by the way. So I'm in Brisbane, Australia right now, which is sort of my hometown. I grew up here, lived here most of my life, but have been living overseas for the last sort of 5 years. But got back here a couple of weeks ago for the holidays, and my brother's coming in from India with his wife. My sister's coming in from America. So I'm just very grateful to be around family and to have this family time together, because as you get older, I'm 35, the opportunities to have like your nuclear family all together, it's sort of, especially when we're all living in different countries, it becomes rarer and rarer. So I'm very grateful for the upcoming time that we're going to have together. And also just, I'm staying at my parents' place and being able to spend time with them. They're in their 70s and all of that is just, yeah, I'm very grateful for that. So that's me. What about yourself?
It's funny. I was thinking about it this morning and I have almost the exact same thing as you. Literally going, well, I'm getting older and it's really nice to be around friends and family. And the reason I say this is yesterday was my girlfriend's birthday. So we celebrated that. We went up for a nice dinner and that was amazing. But all week, so it was also my birthday last Friday. So our birthdays are 5 days apart, which means, and then we're getting close to Christmas. So we've just, every night we've spent with friends or with family. My family Christmas was for my mom's side was on Saturday. My birthday was Friday. And so it's just like every day back to back, we're doing some sort of birthday or Christmas celebration. But it's been really nice because I usually travel. So I live abroad often for the last 5 years I have. So I've been home for my birthday for many years. This year I have just so much gratitude to be spending so much time with friends and family. And just like you said, as I get older, I appreciate that more and more and more. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really nice December so far. Just great to see so much friends and family.
Amazing.
All right. That's some good gratitude. Hopefully everyone else out there will express and practice gratitude as well. It's a great way to just sort of relax and feel good. And I don't think we do that enough. So it's something that we like to share. Okay, there's a lot of news, so we're going to just jump right into the news and get into things because we got lots to talk about. But before we do, let's take a quick second to hear from our sponsors.
Modern newsletters are built on Paragraph. That's right. Paragraph is a brand new newsletter platform that combines the best parts of Web 2 and Web 3 to supercharge newsletters for both writers and readers. Build a community, not just an audience. Paragraph uses blockchain tech to allow readers to collect and own the words that matter to them. This takes reading a newsletter to the next level. With Paragraph, readers can mint, collect, and show off quotes from their favorite newsletters. This opens new possibilities like creators sharing revenue with fans. I also love their new feature, Paragraph AI. This integrates GPT-4 natively in Paragraph to create, edit, and improve your writing effortlessly with one click. And guess what? We at Web3 Academy are on board and have already moved our content over to Paragraph. We believe this is the future of newsletters because of the profound engagement it creates between creators and fans. So, whether you're a creator, writer, or an avid reader, it's time to check out Paragraph and capitalize on the opportunity of being early.
All right, friends, we are back. We will start with the market watch and cover, of course, the biggest assets in the space, Bitcoin, ETH, and, well, Solana's not the biggest, but it's one that we like to cover here. The charts were really good. I was really excited to come in here and give you guys a bunch of bullish news. Now they're all red. So that sucks. But Bitcoin is down 2% on the day, down 4% on the week. Now, it did have a big drop after some news with, I think it's because of the Elizabeth Warren news, which we'll talk about in a second, but it did recover from that. Now we're sort of sitting down again, potentially because of the exploit news. Again, we'll talk about what that is in just a second. But overall, things are looking bullish in markets, and we'll cover why. Ethereum still manageable. I guess it's down 0.39% today, up 0.85% on the week, still up almost 10% on the month. It has also had a nice run up since the macro news and the macro winds have changed for us. And Solana is down 0.1% on the day, still up 14% on the week. This thing just has no chill. It just continues to go up and up and up. It went up almost to $74 today. And then with the exploit news, went down just below 70. We're back up above 71. So, I mean, it's still doing fine. Both of us, Zeneca and I, were just talking just before recording, and we were like, oh, we had to close out some longs or some trades because we were a little bit scared of what might happen as we record here. But overall, things look good. Is there any other big assets that you cover? Zeneca, these are the three that we always just kind of look at to gauge markets. Anything you look at as well?
Those are the big three: Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana, I think. Honestly, Solana, I didn't pay much attention to until like 6 weeks, 2 months ago. And now it's like every day, definitely keep an eye on Solana.
It's hard not to pay attention to it now. I mean, it's just ripped so hard. And then the ecosystem is just exploding. You can't take your eyes off at this point. All right, let's talk about what's going on in markets, why things are going really well over the last, 24 hours, let's say, excluding the last 30 minutes. But there's a few big macro news. We cover a lot of macro stuff, Zeneca, on here in the Market Watch. We've had a thesis that inflation would continue to go down, interest rates would go pause and eventually go lower, and unemployment would go higher. And so far, all that stuff has been playing out really well. And we thought that would lead markets upwards into the end of the year. It's been a really good thesis so far, and it continues to play out. This week, we had some big news. The inflation numbers came out in the US, and we were down to 3.1 in terms of the CPI. The core, which we talk about a lot, actually just remained at 4. So not good, not bad, but continuing to see CPI go down is really good news. And I think this will just continue over the beginning of next year. So this is exactly what we wanted to see. And the Fed came and they had their minutes on Wednesday, the 13th. And they basically said they're pretty happy with where inflation is going. And as a result, what they have decided is they did not raise rates. They said back in, I think it was June or July, that they were going to raise rates 3 more times. They raised rates 1 more time, and they have not touched them since. People were thinking maybe they would do it 1 more here. Not happening. And actually, they said not only are they not going to raise rates, but they are predicting that they will have 3 rate cuts coming in 2024. This sent Twitter on a just rampage. Everyone got super bullish. We're writing a newsletter that goes out tomorrow called Full Send Everything. And that's really where I think markets are heading here. The reason I say this is actually, so they said only 3 rate cuts for 2024. I think the markets were predicting 1 and they said 3. So that was quite bullish. They said about 75 basis points will be the cut in the US. But here's what I say is everything the Fed says tends to be a lie. It's always more bullish than what they lead. Like they said they were going to cut way more. They didn't end up doing that last year or this year, I guess. Then they said rates will be up higher for longer. And now they're already changing their tune on that and saying it's going to go lower. So when they say 3 rate cuts, 75 basis points, I guess it's going way more than that. But let's see. I don't think we go back down to 0 interest rates, but I think it's going to go much, much, much lower in 2024. We'll touch on some more stuff, but do you have any thesis around macro, or is that something you touch on, Zeneca, yourself?
I keep an eye on macro. I don't purport to be an expert on it by any means, but yeah, I follow a bunch of other smart people, and I look at their commentary and be like, that makes sense. That's the general consensus and opinion. And yeah, it was hard not to sort of see the reaction to today's news and be feeling bullish about it. Yeah, I've been feeling pretty bullish going into 2024 already, and this sort of just is yet another positive indicator that things are likely to do well on the crypto front.
So do you see us in 2024 as full on sort of bull market, like maybe 2020 or 2021? Or what are your thoughts on where we're heading into right now?
I think there's probably about a 70% chance it's like up only from here onwards, and we just gig ascend into 2024 and 2025. I think there's a 30% chance we get a significant correction, like maybe Bitcoin drops 30% and then we go sideways for a while. And then it's up only. It's like, the bull might really start in late 2024 instead of have already started. I've been looking back at 2019 and 2020 a reasonable amount and trying to study that. There are definitely a lot of similarities. And so I think that while I am definitely bullish on it, a big part of me is like, you know what, it really, really feels like it's just, we have the ETF, we have the halvening, we have all this, other stuff coming out. It feels like it's just going to gig ascend. I'm still, a significant part of me is like, yeah, we should prepare for the possibility of a big correction still.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I always look at past cycles as well. I think it's so helpful to just like kind of understand, because it's so cyclical, crypto, and it's so cyclical that it's a little bit weird, like almost like to the specific date, every 4 years, like it's wild. But I think what you're referring to is in 2020, in the last cycle, which was sort of the beginning of the bull market, we did a big run up in 2019, and then 2020 started and we had a massive dip. Now that was the COVID dip. So I think things puked by like 50%. And then after that, it kind of took a little bit. Everyone was like, what's happening? Everyone's like, okay, the world's okay. And then we just ripped all the way to 2021, basically. Yeah. And so you're thinking maybe we see something like that. And I have actually the Bitcoin cycle up on the screen for anyone that's watching. But I believe it's not even going to show up in this. I got to actually pull up the real chart here because it was so quick. So you can't even see it in there. Yeah. But is that kind of what you're basing it on?
Similar to that. I mean, obviously the COVID crash was not something you can plan for. It's an X factor. But on the other side, like the amount of stimulus money that came in and propped the market up was also sort of not something we can expect to necessarily come this cycle around. So even if we look at like late 2019, early 2020, so like even a little before COVID, it was also, if my memory is serving correctly, had a bit of a run up and then a correction, and then another, obviously, COVID crash, massive correction, and then the gig ascended. So like I said, 70% of me, and I think there's 70% chance-ish that we've really started the bull and it just continues to tick upwards. Maybe there's a bit of a dip during the ETF when it's like a sell the news event, but like it's still going to likely be upwards trending for a couple of years.
It looks like a bullish 2024. Here's what I actually tweeted out this morning, which was, here's kind of what we're looking for in terms of catalysts and just things that to me make it look so bullish, which is 3 rate cuts. We just talked about that. And so I think there's actually probably more than that. We've got the Bitcoin spot ETF coming early January, most likely. We have the Bitcoin halving, which, whether that's a reason for the cycles or not, either way, it's something sort of bullish, at least because we're decreasing supply. We have the potential ETH spot ETF. Now that one's not as of a guarantee as Bitcoin, but I think if Bitcoin gets approved, it's very likely ETH does as well. And that I think is happening in May-ish. We also have the US election, which that tends to be a very bullish year for assets, for risk assets, because oftentimes the current president and the current, organizations and that, they start printing money. The Fed prints money, usually because they want, and again, I don't know that they're actually colluding together or whatever, you don't want to say that, but typically it's a really, really good year for assets, and because there's usually a lot of money printing. So it's likely that happens again. And then I think also the bad actors are pretty well, hopefully, all gone. Binance was kind of the final one to drop, which just happened. Yeah. And so it kind of sets the sails for just like clear sailing from here. And then finally, we've never really had a bull market where ETH is actually burning, and activity is heating up on chain, which means we're about to be, and we already kind of are, burning a lot of ETH. And I don't know what's going to happen when we're burning a ton of ETH and there's a lot of demand for ETH, especially if the spot ETH ETF gets approved. Yeah. It's just like, I think you might just have an insane supply and demand shock. And then not even that, but there's also the EIP 4844, which happens in, I think, Q1, which means that L2s are going to be like an order of magnitude cheaper. And so we start to have what we have over on Solana. You can have that based on any L2, not to the same extent, but pretty close. There's just so much to be bullish for 2024. Yeah.
And like so much. Still does much more as well. I think it's like just the user experience is so much better now. Like you can create a wallet using your email address or your biometrics on your phone. You can get set up. You can, whether you're using an L2 or Solana, it's instantly send and transact on chain. It's just, there's a million excellent catalysts. And like you said, it's hard not to be extremely bullish.
So if prices start to go back up to all-time highs, that's when retail comes back in, the mainstream comes back in, and they actually have things to use. Like when they all came in 2020, 2021, yeah, we had NFTs and DeFi, but it was mainly on Ethereum, and it was like $50 a transaction, hundreds of dollars if it was NFTs, which like that, no one was sticking around because of that. Like, you know what I mean? It was almost like that bull market came too early. But this time people come around. We've got L2s, we've got Solana, we've got games on Immutable and wherever else. Like, we've got so much stuff. And so I wonder if there's a lot of people saying, is this a super cycle? And I think we still continue with cycles, but there's more reason for people to actually stick around this time around. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out. We'll see. Any thoughts on that actually before we move on?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think like a lot of people say gaming is going to be a huge part of this, like, and I completely agree. Like 2021, people were talking about the metaverse. Facebook changed the name to Meta, Web3 gaming, land sales. A lot of people got very excited by it, but the reality was that there weren't good games out yet. There weren't fun games. Web3 gaming wasn't fun. Everyone said, oh, it takes 5 years to build a great game. You know what? It's been 5 years. 2024 is around the corner. A lot of these projects have been building since 2017, 2019, 2020. There are some genuinely excellent, fun games. Like Parallel is a really fun sci-fi trading card game. Forgotten Runeverse is a really fun MMORPG that's on, like, and there's 100 others that are fun games. And the gaming market is enormous, and so there's stuff for people to do. And like another thing of the bullish, you mentioned retail. Retail is not here yet. Like they're just not. Right. It's largely the same bunch of us degens and crypto natives trading back and forth. A little bit of new money flowing in, but it's not new money. It's people that were like here last cycle, they went away, and now they're like starting to pay attention. Most people are not Googling and getting back into it. So when that happens, I think again, fuel to the fire and things go crazy.
Yeah. I saw a tweet and I was going to put in here, but it didn't. But it was like, this time around, things are going to get really weird, just like they got last cycle. Don't expect it to be like any different. Things are going to get weird again. Like last cycle was just absolute mayhem. And the things that went up were just like, you were like, what's happening right now? I think it all happens all over again. It's just human psychology, right? It's just what we do. It's pretty funny. But
I think it's even crazier this time around.
Honestly, you think it's going to be crazier? Yeah.
We saw Doge to 90 billion or whatever. And you know, Ohm went ballistic, and it's good and bad, but I think it gets even crazier. I think the world is in an even more precarious position. I think younger generations feel like they're not going to be able to, they don't want to work a job for 30 years, 40 years and maybe buy a house and be in debt. They have, for better or worse, they have more risk, and the creator economy is in boom. I always say this, like we're living in the ice cream so good generation, where it's like people are just happy to throw money at random stupid things and meme coins and dog coins, and it's going to get really, really, really silly. But on the flip side, there's also all these great use cases. So it's like there's something for everyone now.
Right, true. And I guess now you have cheap block space, you have an abundance of it, which we didn't have, which means, and then also there's just so many tools to build things on top of blockchains now that just didn't exist in the last cycle, where like anyone can really build something now. And so like, there's just going to be an abundance of stuff, which means there's going to be an abundance of craziness to go with it. So it's going to be a wild ride. I'm excited. Zeneca, hopefully you'll join us a lot on the podcast to give us your insights on what's going on. Speaking of your insights, okay, some craziness going on right now in the Ethereum world, I guess. I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, any other blockchains, but tell us what's going on. There's a potential major exploit, and this is kind of why markets took a bit of a dump before we clicked record here. What's the news?
Yes, I'm just reading some new tweets now to catch up on the news. So not even a potential, it was a major exploit. Basically, what happened was there was a Ledger Connect kit, like this library that a lot of dApps, decentralized applications, use on their websites. I think it was like it was like a kit for connecting your wallet to a website, any wallet. So it didn't have to be a Ledger wallet. It could be your MetaMask hot wallet. It could be a different, basically that got compromised. And so what it meant was that any website that was using that had an exploit whereas the hacker was able to inject like a wallet draining link or connection into the dApp. And so if you connected your wallet and interacted with those dApps, you would just get your assets drained. And SushiSwap was one of them. Revoke.cash was a really unfortunate one of them, because normally when there's a big exploit or people get scared, for 2 years now, we've been telling people, if you think you've been hacked, go to revoke.cash and get rid of your permissions, revoke your permissions. This time, the advice is don't do that. If you do that, you're going to get and do nothing. So basically, that happened about, I think, an hour ago. And I'm just now seeing a tweet that it seems like it's been patched. I mean, just remain vigilant. And, this is coming out. It's going to be about 24 hours, I imagine, after the exploit. And so I really hope it's already patched by now. It shouldn't take longer than a few hours, but it's just a big, scary wake-up call to the space, I think.
I love self-custody, but it is so scary sometimes, like to manage your own assets and to try to maneuver around all this stuff. So was this a Ledger thing? Was Ledger the problem here, do you think, or we don't really know yet?
We don't know 100%, but like based on what I've seen, it seems like it was Ledger's fault, basically. Like they didn't have good enough security practices. And so somewhere in their tech stack chain, one of the important elements, someone was able to compromise that and inject this malicious code. That was really, really bad. Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I hate to call out Ledger and make, it's your fault. This stuff is not easy, right? We're still very early. And I think Ledger does have an amazing security team. They're one of the biggest security teams that we have in the entire space of any company. And so I like, obviously they are really good, but hey, we all make mistakes. Not everyone's perfect. And so this is why we need to do our best to just like share if anything does happen. So this happened, by the way, at around 8 o'clock a.m. EST on Thursday. This podcast comes out at 8 on Friday. So this might already be over with, but just check Zeneca's Twitter, which is at Zeneca, and he'll give you updates on anything that's going on. That's where I learned about it just before I jumped in on this call with Zeneca. So
there you go.
Yeah, be safe out there. It's a tough space. Yeah. All right, let's go on to a little bit more. The only other shitty news I have for us, the rest is all really, really good news for the rest of the episode. But this is a new bill that has been introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren. I'm sure all of you guys know who this is by now. We talk about her quite a bit because she absolutely hates the crypto industry. She's got an army of people in the U.S. Political system that's trying to basically shut down crypto. She went on the news just the other day and said that North Korea funds 50% of their, terrorist attacks and stuff through crypto, which I don't know where she got that from. I think it's complete bullshit, but this is just what she does. Anyway, she's just introduced a new bill cracking down on crypto, basically trying to fight like money laundering and things like that with DeFi. And if this bill were to pass, it would, one, infringe on every human's rights, but also it would make DeFi almost unusable if DeFi actually had to comply to this. Basically, it spooked markets. I think anyway, when this came out, markets dumped pretty big. This was the big dump we had earlier this week. Anyone's wondering kind of why that happened. Again, I don't know exactly if this is why, but it was at the same time that everything sort of dumped as this came out. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing about this bill. And the reason is Elizabeth Warren does not bat very well with her bills. So here's a nice tweet by Tom Dunleavy, who just says, Warren has sponsored 36 bills from 2023 to 2023, 0 had passed. 103 bills she sponsored in 2021, 2022, 0 passed. 98 bills from 2019, 0 passed. 80 bills, 2017, 2018, 0 passed. And 27 bills in 2015 to 2016, 0 passed. She has never had a bill pass that she sponsored.
That is actually an astonishing track record. Like, it's this thing it's really impressive when you are right, every single time. It's equally as impressive when you get it wrong every single, that's mind-blowing. That is kind of difficult to do.
Yeah, right. So I contrast that with actually commenting on this. I forgot about that. I just realized I did this a couple of days ago. I just put BlackRock over Elizabeth Warren. BlackRock is 578 times that they have, or 579 times that they have launched an ETF. They've only had one wrong. One that didn't get approved, and whereas Elizabeth Warren is batting 0. So I think what happens here is this thing's not going to go anywhere. And even if it does start to gain traction, as soon as BlackRock and the others get their ETFs approved, they're going to lobby against this anyway. And so there's no way that this is going anywhere. So whenever these things happen and dips come because of political things, I'm like, sweet, great buying opportunity. And these will happen a lot. Last cycle, there was always something. China was going to ban crypto. The U.S. was going to ban this or that. This happens always during bull markets, and the markets don't care. They always bounce back.
At this point, China has banned crypto so many times that it's just a meme. It's just so funny.
Completely, yeah. So that's it for the FUD. Let's jump into some airdrop stuff. There's so much going on. We talked all about the Solana ecosystem last week. We had a newsletter that just went out giving a guide on how to use a bunch of the different protocols, DeFi protocols, mainly on Solana, so you can farm some of these airdrops, which like, I don't love the like, hey, go and cheat the system farm, but I do like to go and use stuff and use it early and play around and be rewarded as a result of that. That's kind of the whole point of this and being so early. So it's nice. That's why we sort of support farming a little bit. But there's a bunch of others that are coming out right now. So LayerZero. And so it's not on the Solana ecosystem, but back over to the Ethereum ecosystem, there's a bunch of firepower coming back saying, hey, we also have airdrops. We also have points. And so LayerZero, which is actually not specific to Ethereum, it is a layer to sort of connect blockchains together in terms of like the way that they message and sharing information. So LayerZero is actually launching a token. What exactly is included in that and who gets that, we're not exactly sure. But just want to say that there's likely an airdrop coming to LayerZero. So likely, I think anyone who uses Ethereum and this kind of stuff will get this airdrop. So keep your eye out for that. The information on that will come out soon, I'm sure. So there's LayerZero. There's Starknet, which is one that's been around for forever. There's been a lot of people farming this one, but it is some incredible technology and a big, I think, ecosystem that's going to form in the Ethereum L2 world. Which Starknet, they have just done their snapshot. Again, they have not said who's getting it yet, but if you've ever used Starknet, you will have one. There's going to be a ton of fake links on Twitter, so be very careful. Make sure you're going to the Starknet Foundation Twitter for this, because there has, over the last year, there's been a million different scammers saying, hey, the token is now live. It is actually coming next week. I believe it's happening, and they'll give us more information coming next week. So don't click on anything right now. Starknet.io is their like actual link. And so if it doesn't say Starknet.io, do not trust it. Do not click anything. Do not connect your wallet. But something big is coming from Starknet next week. So be ready for that. And then one final big one that just came out, Points has been the big thing going on in the last little bit, especially in the Solana ecosystem, which is, I actually kind of like it. I'll get your opinion on it in a second, Zeneca. But Points is basically a way for when you're farming or you're using a new application, you get rewarded points to do certain things, whether it's inviting other people, whether it's, you're lending, you're borrowing, you're, minting, whatever you're doing, you kind of gain points. And then they end up giving, when they do drop a token, or if they drop a token, the points tends to be not one for one, but like if you have more points, you typically will get more of the airdrop. So this is sort of a fun little way to kind of gamify this sort of like airdrop farming scenario that's been going on. And Rainbow, which is a wallet, a self-custodial wallet, has just jumped into this. So yesterday they announced that they have now what's called Rainbow Points. And basically, if you've ever used Ethereum, you get points. And so you can download Rainbow if you don't already have it. And if you import one of your wallets from, I guess, any wallet, you get, I think, automatically 100 points. But what they're really trying to do here, which is interesting, is if you've ever used MetaMask swaps, their main competitor, then you get points based on the amount that you have swapped in MetaMask. And so you can get a bunch of points if you've done that. And then also based on how much assets you have in your wallet, you get more points on that. And then if you've, swapped on Rainbow, or if you currently swap on Rainbow, you bridge in Rainbow, you mint NFTs in Rainbow, you get more points. So a lot of opportunities here. Now, will they drop a token? We have no idea. There have been other apps that, like Zapper, for example, that had points and never gave a token. Yeah. Some people were pissed about that, but like, hey, it is what it is. But I'm speculating here, likely there's an airdrop to come, and this is sort of their way to try to gain some market share over MetaMask. So if you haven't used Rainbow, it's actually a great wallet. I highly recommend you use it regardless of this. But if you've ever used Ethereum, you get free points here, so you might as well go do that. What are your thoughts on the whole point scenario that's going on? It is like really big in the crypto world right now.
Yeah, it is. I would say it's interesting. I think I share a similar sentiment to you, where I don't love the airdrop farming system, where it's like it encourages and incentivizes people to make lots of wallets or to try and game the system and to just put in the bare minimum and use 100 different apps and they're not genuine users to get rewards. Airdrops, I think, are best when they retroactively reward users without hinting that they're going to do one and all that kind of stuff. That said, this is the world that we live in, and it seems that most protocols now use airdrops less as a way to reward genuine users, even though there's a bit of that, And more is just marketing. It's like, let's just market the hell out of this. Let's go viral. That's why all of these now have a referral program. We've all seen the not pyramid Ponzi scheme because it's on its side, the Blast popularized. And now I think Rainbow has the same thing where it's like, if you refer someone, you get some points. And if that person refers someone else, and you also get some points. And for that person, it's just sort of like, it's all marketing. And I think it's fine. It's like fun. It's interesting. It's exciting. It's gamified. You can make some money from it. So yeah, overall, I double-edged sword, but I think it's harmless enough and kind of cool. But I think generally, and there are definitely exceptions, but generally when everyone knows an airdrop's coming and everyone's farming it, like the value you're going to get is going to be significantly less compared to when they don't know that. Now, the exception, and the biggest exception that comes to mind is Blur, because, Blur season 1, everyone was getting points, and a big airdrop came, and then season 2, everyone said, oh my God, everyone's farming Blur, the points are going to be worthless. And then yet again, they were worth a lot. So if the protocol is big enough and there's enough demand, then it is absolutely worth farming points. And I think that it is the best use of time for anyone that has a lot of time and not a lot of capital, because the ROI is enormous in airdrop farming compared to other things. But at a certain point, it becomes less valuable to airdrop farm and more to do other things.
Yeah, agreed. I think from a business standpoint, like it is really smart. And I mean, it's very smart to do the point system because it amplifies this. Like when you think and you're like assuming that an app is going to do an airdrop, you farm it, but you maybe don't go all in. But when there's points in a leaderboard at that, where you can like compare yourself to others, it's just like you go way harder, which is like, the thing is, what I like about what Rainbow did is the way you get points. One is by like, if you invite other people, which is super smart. It's an affiliate. Every company has an affiliate program. So like, that's nothing new. Now they're doing it in an on-chain way, which is great. So that's cool. But then it's like the best way to get points for Rainbow is like to do swaps in Rainbow, to bridge in Rainbow, and to mint in Rainbow. And they make revenue on all of those transactions. And so they're incentivizing ways for them to actually gain revenue. And they're sort of like teaching people to use these features. And then they're also, you can tell exactly who are the people that they're trying to get over to their wallet. It's MetaMask users that use MetaMask Swap, not that leave MetaMask, go to Uniswap to swap. It's those that swap right in MetaMask. So they're trying to get their exact target. So like, I think it's quite smart on the marketing side. What I do dislike is when people have 100 or 1,000 wallets and they, and they do this. I think that just like, it sucks for the company because that's not who they want to be giving money to and who they want to be giving governance to. And then it sucks because like you said, it dilutes for everyone else. This is fun. And we want to like go and compete and do these things and try this new stuff. And yeah, you should get rewarded, but you shouldn't get like the Jito airdrop was like 10K to anyone, which was amazing. I got that and I was so grateful for it. But then there's people that were like, oh, I had 20 wallets. And I was like, come on, that's just, so you got 200K and you did the same thing that I don't know, it's a bit ridiculous. Now, what is interesting, and Jito actually put out how they tried to basically block people from doing that, from farming it and sort of gaming the system too much. So they partnered with this company called Allium, I'm not sure. Allium Labs is their Twitter. And so if any apps here are listening right now, I recommend you guys use this if you're doing airdrops, because what they did is they're trying to detect who are the people that have multiple wallets. And so there's two sort of ways they did this. One was they actually looked at source funding of the wallet. So they can go back, everything's on chain, and then go back and go, okay, where did all these wallets get funded from? And if it's all from one wallet, they know this is the same person, and they can basically exit out and not do a bunch of those wallets and maybe give them to one, or maybe the person just got completely wrecked from this. I'm not sure how that would work. But if you're funding it all from the same wallet, they can kind of look at that. They said that's not the most effective way, but it is one way to do it. The other way was they actually look at your behavior. And so behavior-based clustering is what they call it, which is they look at a bunch of wallets and they're looking to match like one IP address could be one. So was it all from the same spot? Was it the same amounts of, let's say, Solana or Jito Sol or whatever it was you were farming with? Was it the same amounts? Did you do it the same way or on the same time? And if they can like start to match a lot of the patterns, they can start to say, oh, this user's actually has like 100 or 200 wallets because it's probably done by a bot or some sort of automation tool. And so they can sort of score it and figure that out. And then they can get rid of those, which I think is super smart. And I hope that we find more ways to do this because, again, I think airdrop farming is fine. It just, I don't like it when people take advantage of it and they start to have too many wallets and like they just sort of game the system. So anyway, we're getting some technology and some services that are helping that, which is great. The last thing I want to touch on in the airdrop world is to just be very careful. A lot of people, and we've had it in our Discord of a lot of people asking, this is the first time they've used DeFi protocols, the first time they've really farmed an airdrop before. And I think, again, it's great to do this, to go learn DeFi is amazing. It's why I learned DeFi back in 2020, was because obviously I was getting rewards for it. And otherwise I probably never would have used DeFi. And now I'm like, wow, this stuff is so cool. I do think everyone should do it, but you got to be very careful because, again, what are we using? Brand new protocols. If they haven't launched a token yet, they're likely very new. Hopefully they've been audited, but we don't know. You're also then using, a lot of times you're lending, you're borrowing, so you're using a bit of leverage, which most people probably have never done before. And then you're using these tokens to leverage that like also have not been around a while. And so an example of this was earlier this week, Marinade staked Sol, or MSol, which is the LST, the derivative of Sol for Marinade, which is commonly used in the apps like MarginFi and Camino and a bunch that people are farming right now. It actually depegged from its Sol peg, and it happened because some whale decided to sell $5 million worth, which is not a lot, $5 million with this MSol basically all at once, and it depegged by like 18%. At the same time that Elizabeth Warren news came out and a bunch of the assets dropped. So it was like a bit of a combination of things, but that depeg ended up causing a few liquidations. So generally you wouldn't have been liquidated if it was going down the same amount that just Sol went down, but it went down an extra 18%. And so people got liquidated and lost some of their positions. And again, a lot of people probably just have no idea what was going on here. Now it's since gone back to its peg. But the story here, the thing to like understand is don't overdo it. Don't over leverage here. Don't put like 100% of your portfolio into airdrop farming because again, this stuff is extremely risky. And as much as I want you guys to play around and try things on chain, the last thing I want is for you to lose all your Sol or lose all your ETH. So just, you got to be very careful. If you've never done this, like, I don't know, read up on, I mean, we did a good report on this of just like trying to help you guys manage your risk. Just don't go all in on this stuff. I know if you put more in, your points will go up faster, but you got to refrain. You got to take a deep breath before you do this stuff and just like, don't go all in because you just never know. And look, nothing bad happened really from this MSol Depeg. It's back pegged, by the way, so it's all good, but something will happen. I guarantee you in the next 4 to 8 weeks, something on Solana is going to break and it's going to cause some problems. And the thing is, what people are doing is you might lend on one protocol, borrow on that protocol, then go put that in another protocol, borrow on that protocol, put another one. Like you start looping here, and then it's like you have this like catastrophic event. So just, you got to be very, very careful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think there's so many different ways for things to go wrong as well. It could be a whale intentionally or unintentionally dumping a bunch and causing depegs or weird price action. There's smart contract risk. There always is smart contract risk anytime you're using DeFi or anything on chain, which is basically, even if it has been audited, sometimes people can find an exploit, let alone when it hasn't been audited. There's a lot of bad actors and hackers out there that all they do is look at protocols that have a bunch of money, TVL, total value, locked in them, and they're like, all right, how can I potentially attack and find a bug or an exploit and drain all the funds from this pool or that pool? And this, so many different ways. So, and be careful.
Solana has been battle tested a bit, but not a ton because it's still relatively new, and especially their DeFi protocols. And the thing to remember is like most of these protocols had in the low millions for TVL for the like this entire bear market since they've launched. And now all of a sudden they are going up to like hundreds of millions or close to hundreds of millions. And so like now hackers are like, oh, it's time to move over to Solana DeFi. And so like these hacks are going to come. Hopefully they don't, but they probably will because there's a big honeypot now. And a lot of these things are not battle tested. So like you should actually expect that you're going to lose some of your funds that you're airdrop farming, and hopefully you make up for it from airdrops or from your yield or, you know, price going up, whatever. But like you should expect you're probably going to lose some because, I mean, it happened a ton in 2020 and 2021 on the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's bound to happen here too, in my opinion. Last note on this is, I know a lot of people like to invest in tokens or use certain applications because, you know, their numbers are going up, their metrics are doing really well. And the one thing you need to just be aware of, this is a tweet that came from Tushar Jain, I guess how you say his name. He's a really well-known investor in the space, but he just says Solana protocol teams should not lie to themselves that post-Jito airdrop farmers driving up their protocol KPIs are a sign of real product market fit. Keep focusing on organic users, not mercenaries. And so what he's saying here is the TVL, the active wallets, what else? Active transactions, like all these things that are happening right now, especially on Solana, but not just there, they are being inflated at the moment because we have airdrop farmers coming from all over the different ecosystems to play around with these things to collect points. And so these aren't real numbers. Now, of course, the numbers are going up. There is a lot of growth and good things happening in the Solana ecosystem, but just be careful. The numbers are definitely inflated right now and probably will continue to be for a little while. So we don't know which one of these apps actually has product market fit. Once all these airdrops are done and the points go away, I would guarantee you a lot of capital leaves and goes to certain apps. Not that it all leaves the Solana ecosystem by any means, but it's not really going off like it says it's going off in the charts right now. So anyway, just something to be mindful of as you're reviewing charts. I know many of us do here in the Web3 Academy community. There's another, it's not just Solana. I think there's a lot going on in the Cosmos ecosystem as well. Why don't you share what your kind of, I don't know, whatever you're seeing right now in the Cosmos world?
So basically, after the Jito airdrop, I think everyone and their mother was like, all right, let's go farm all the other Solana. Solana's where the action is. Let's go get 10K. And what we saw was just a ridiculous number of people pile on in. And as we spoke about before, usually when that happens, it means that if you get an airdrop, you're probably not getting 10,000. You might be lucky to get $100. And the value goes down when there's that many more people farming it. Yeah. And so like, the real alpha basically is to go one step further, be like, what's the next one? Or where is the attention, not now, that maybe comes in the future? And that's where I think a lot of people flooded to AVAX. And like we saw a big pump on the AVAX chain. AVAX token went up. A lot of people are farming there. And now people are looking at other places. And I think the Cosmos ecosystem has really, I guess, started to take the shape as another place as well. Not just for airdrop farming. It's sort of been pumping quite a lot for the last few months. But yeah, I basically just started paying attention to it a week ago, and it's all a lot more of the same really, where people are like, all right, do this to airdrop farm. Everyone has their Twitter thread with like, go deposit into these protocols. But I think that because it's foreign enough and there's enough friction to get involved, that probably the opportunity there is a little higher than certainly on Solana or ETH at the moment. AVAX, Phantom, Base, every chain is probably worth paying attention to, but I feel like the real alpha is looking at, 2 or 3 steps ahead where people aren't actively farming in mass at the moment.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is, I don't know if you've used Cosmos much, but did you get this Celestia airdrop? I'm sure you probably got that.
I did not. I was basically not doing any airdrop farming throughout the whole bear. I mean, that's a whole other story. I was doing other things, but I've started to use Cosmos a lot in the last, say, couple of weeks.
I mean, I didn't farm it. I just, because I'm an active user on Ethereum, I got this airdrop. But the thing was, it was so hard for me to figure out how to just get it because it was over on Cosmos. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing over here. I need a new wallet. Had to figure out like to get over there. And I was like, wow, this is tough. And so I think that's why like Jito Sol, for example, was so like, there was so much because there was such a small amount of wallets, because a lot of the ETH people who are the typical farmers didn't really know how to use Solana that much, and they didn't really take it seriously. And so I think what you're saying is, and it's the same thing, is now they're all trying to figure out Solana. And so Cosmos is a whole other beast for people to figure out. And I think, again, we've got time before they get there. So it's probably, it's very smart. But man, I sold that Celestia as soon as I got it. And that thing has just pumped and pumped and pumped. It's crazy. But there's a lot of cool things being built over on Cosmos, by the way. We've talked about them quite a bit. We're starting to talk about them more, and I think we need to give them more coverage because there's a lot of really cool protocols and just like applications and things being built over there. So it's quite interesting, but it's definitely a whole other world. It's quite confusing. But speaking of the modular thesis, let's jump over to some L2 stuff that's going on. So we've got a few things in the L2 world that we want to announce here and just cover. First is that Celestia, speaking of Cosmos, has now been put into the Polygon CDK. And so basically what this is Polygon has a tech stack that allows you to basically create an L2 pretty easily. You can think of it as like an L2 as a service. Optimism has this. Obviously, that's what Base uses. Arbitrum has this. There hasn't been a lot that have used on Arbitrum, but Polygon has this as well. Flipkart, for example, is using this. OKX is using this. But now what they've done is you could think of it almost like a plugin for like WordPress. They've allowed Celestia to be basically like a plugin here. And so Celestia is a data availability layer. And so if you're launching a layer 2 using the Polygon stack, you can now use Celestia for data availability, which is like, I don't know, 100x cheaper than Ethereum, something like that.
Yeah.
And you can do it with almost like the click of a button. So it becomes very easy now for you to integrate the Celestia data availability layer in your L2. And so what's really cool here is like, basically anyone can go and launch a ZK EVM L2 rollup using Celestia, and that's extremely cheap. It has zero knowledge proofs. It's got all the things. It's settled by Ethereum, and it's just like so easy. I don't want to say super easy. I couldn't do it, but I'm not a developer. But like, yeah, relatively easy for a developer. They could do this. You don't have to worry about all the difficulties in like building your own chain. So it's pretty cool to see this. Celestia, who's just become a big name now in the space, is now integrated in there. What Polygon's calling this is a broadband moment for Web3. And look, L2s are fast and they're great and they're pretty cheap, but ETH fees are pretty high right now. So they're still like 20 cents to transact on, which is not that cheap. But as soon as you use Celestia, you're under a penny easily. And so this is just great to see, great to have these sort of all, this modular thesis play out and kind of everything all integrated together. Speaking of that, there's more modular things going on. Eclipse, which we covered before. This is the new L2 that came out that also uses Celestia, but then as its execution layer, it uses the Solana virtual machine, but it's an L2 on top of Ethereum. So now you have the Solana virtual machine using the Celestia data availability layer and all settling on top of Ethereum. So you have the best of all three worlds, which is Solana, Cosmos, and Ethereum all together in one. I'm super bullish on this one. This is just the test net. So I think we're still a few months away from them going live, but I'm really excited to see what this brings because it allows the apps that are currently on Solana to now bridge over and access Ethereum liquidity. But it can do it pretty easily. So I don't know if they will. I don't know how that'll play out, but I would assume this is something that Solana apps want. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out. I don't know if you have any theories around that or if you have any more context you want to add here.
Yeah, I'm an investor in Eclipse here. So I think I'm extremely bullish on it because of all the reasons you said. It's like the best of a few different worlds. And as Solana is sort of like taking shape as a really significant blockchain this coming cycle, I think a lot of people are saying it's going to outperform ETH, or at least, Bitcoin, Sol, and ETH are the three ones to watch. It really just unlocks liquidity and possibilities for developers and users to just get access to better apps and amounts of liquidity across the both chains. So yeah, I think it's worth dabbling in, like go poker. Like we speak of airdrop farming. I think that's probably one that a lot of people aren't going to pay that much attention to, but go poke around the testnet. I have no information. I honestly don't know if there will be an airdrop for people that use testnet or anything like that. But again, it's probably worth half an hour of your time.
I kind of hate that most of the shows about airdrops, but like at the same time, whatever. If people are making money, it's great. But like, I don't know. I've always been not against it, but I've always been like, I hate that that's what our industry is about. But I don't know. In an early stage of a bull market, it's fun. Everyone's making money. Everyone's happy. And you know what? The apps are all happy too. We need activity, and it's just nice to see activity back again on chain and people trying things. Yeah. People did not care to do that for the last year, so it's nice. All right, one more thing before Zeneca gets to jump off. I think it's late there. Isn't it like 11:30 p.m. for you right now?
It's 12:30 a.m., so just after midnight. I actually have another couple of goals to run to after this. So
wow.
In a minute.
All right. So yeah, no doubt. Okay, so last one in the L2 world as well. So Blast came out a few weeks ago, or I think it was in November, and they had this native yield for ETH and for stablecoins. And I don't know why, but it's not even really an L2. It's basically just kind of a multi-sig wallet. It'll eventually be an L2. And if you trust them, then it's all good. But they got, I think, over $800 million worth of assets that
TVL.
There within like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Yeah. Just absolutely wild. And I mean, people want yield, right? People want yield in their stablecoins. People want yield on their ETH. And so that was pretty cool. And they're farming the last airdrop as well, I guess. But now we have Manta Network, which has just launched the first actual L2 to have native yield for ETH and stablecoin. So it's exactly what Blast was doing, except this one is actually an L2. It's not just a multi-sig wallet. So this is really cool. They've gotten raised for $60 million from Polychain, Binance Labs, and CoinFund, as well as some others. But if you use their L2, you actually get yield from their ETH. You get yield on your ETH and yield on your stablecoins just natively. So just every time you do anything with yield with ETH over there and with stablecoins, you're automatically getting some yield, which is like I said when Blast launched, I was like, this is a super cool idea. And I was like, there's going to be more competition on this. And here it is. Yeah. We're like 3 weeks later and already we have an L2 that's launching this. I love to see that. And then they also have some reward stuff too. So I don't know, probably another airdrop, I guess, for you to go farm, but it never ends. But anyway, super cool. there's so much innovation going on in the L2 space. Zeneca, I know you got to go, so I just want to say a big thank you for joining us here while Jay is off. We'd love to have you on the show. Appreciate all of your knowledge and everything you're doing in the space. Guys, if you're not following Zeneca, go do that on Twitter. Any final words you want to say, Zeneca?
I mean, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun chatting. I mean, there's so much going on. Like we could chat for 4 more hours. I think it's still not cover half of what's going on in this space. But yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be in crypto. It's the time to be paying attention. Like, it would have been great if everyone was paying attention throughout the bear, but people have lives and stuff. But like, if you're just getting back into the space now, it's like, all right, this is it. There's so much cool stuff happening, whether you're a trader, investor, or builder, or creator, or whatever you are, a developer, there's all sorts of stuff happening, and it's just exciting. I'm just excited. Like, I'm really happy for the world and the space and see where things go in 2024.
This is why Zeneca's up after 12 o'clock, just still doing calls. That's bull market vibes.
I'm flying high, honestly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, and have a great rest of the show. Bye.
All right. Take care. So don't worry, guys. We're not all leaving. Just Zeneca is for now. We've still got a bunch more to cover. Not a bunch more, but a little bit more here for you. So let's dive right into it. We're going to jump off the L2 world, and we're going to move over. Well, I guess this is still L2 stuff, but we're going to move over to Coinbase. Coinbase continues to ship. I don't know if you guys have saw it, but Coinbase is now up over $150. The coin, I was going to say token, but it's not a token. It's just a stock. But anyway, it's just doing amazing. It's because they just keep shipping. They continue to build both on their app and their normal exchange, but also on chain as well. And so just recently, Coinbase has launched a new platform, they're calling it, which is called Pyramid, I believe, or is it called Diamond? Where is it? I've got it somewhere here, guys. Sorry, I'm messing this up. Here we go. Project Diamond. And so basically what this is Coinbase is helping institutions bring assets on chain. So TradFi assets on chain with their new platform that's on Base, of course, which is their L2. And they're doing this in Abu Dhabi and under their regulation. So they didn't want to do it in the US. And so they're doing this over in Abu Dhabi, which is interesting timing because Binance was doing a lot with Abu Dhabi, and they just recently lost their license to do this kind of stuff in Abu Dhabi just last week. And so all of a sudden Coinbase announces this. So pretty cool. Coinbase, I think, is going to onboard a lot of institutions on chain. They're already sort of doing it with ETFs. I mean, they're the ones that are custodying all the assets for all these ETFs, but I think they're going to bring so many institutions and assets on chain. And of course, they're going to do it on their own L2, which is super, super cool to see. I'm sure we'll see similar things with like OKX and that as well. So that's one big thing that they're launching. I think that's something to watch out for. And the reason they do it on Base is they have more functionality there, right? They can start to use their Coinbase attestations where they can have some KYC stuff. So if they need KYC to interact with certain liquidity pools, they can manage that with the KYC they have on Coinbase, plus implementing those features into Base, their own L2. So a lot of just cool functionality and things that they can do with their own L2 that I'm excited to see. The other thing that Coinbase launched was spot trading for Bitcoin and ETH in global markets. So Coinbase was predominantly in US, Canada, and a few other places as well, but they're now expanding their what's called their international exchange that they have. I believe this is also in Abu Dhabi. But anyway, this is for people all around the world to start using Coinbase. And now you have, they did this with derivatives, and now they have spot trading for countries kind of all over the world now. I think it's just Bitcoin and ETH to start, but likely they'll open this up to more in the future. Yeah, Coinbase is just, they own the US markets and spot, and now they're really trying to go global for spot, for derivatives, for everything. So I just think, man, these guys are a beast, and I think they surpass all-time highs real soon, and they're going to be one of the most important companies in the space, and they're going to be just a big company in the traditional world as well. So anyway, really excited to see what Coinbase continues to do, but they've got a lot going on. All right, off of Coinbase, let's jump over to some big news in the NFT world. That is Pudgy Penguins. They always tend to be the big news in the NFT world, but they have just launched Pudgy World, okay? It's called Pudgy World Alpha, actually. And this is really cool. Well, actually, they didn't launch it. It's launching in Q1 of 2024, but they announced that they're doing this. And basically what this is first of all, it's powered by ZK Sync. So it's a zero knowledge proof rollup, let's call it. That's a layer 2 on Ethereum. And this is like a metaverse world. And what this is you guys know that they have toys. And when you buy one of those toys, there's a QR code in there for you to sort of like adopt your Pudgy, and you can adopt it digitally. It's like a certificate of ownership of the Pudgy that you purchase. But what that does is when you scan the QR code, it mints an NFT. And not only is that NFT signifying that you adopted this Pudgy, but you also get to go then connect into a digital world and you can get digital experiences. And so previous, it was very small what that was. It was just like basically a website. Now it's becoming a metaverse world powered by ZK Sync, and they're going to have games and different like metaverse experiences that you can do in there. So it's supposed to be really, really cool. And I would expect that Pudgy will do something really good here. Now, what's interesting and why they use ZK is, a lot of kids are going to be the ones that are actually going into this world. And so there's going to be limitations. We need to know age limits, things like that. And so ZK Sync allows a few things. Zero knowledge proofs allows one for them to do an age check without knowing exactly how old they are, right? Maybe they need to be above the age of, 10 or 16 or whatever. Or if they're below the age of, 18, then they can only see certain content or whatever. And so zero knowledge proofs allows us to do that without knowing everything about the person. So that's really cool. But also parents can approve for kids to do certain things on chain or to get certain experiences. And again, you don't have to know who that person is, but you can know that they are in fact the parent of that child or whatever, right? Like there's different, you can share information without sharing all the information. And so a lot of cool things that you're going to be able to do with parental guidelines and things like that. So really excited to see what all goes on here. We don't know a ton. I have the video up of their sort of announcement for Pudgy Penguins, but they're calling this chapter 1, which is the Berg. And so we'll see what they have, but I imagine there'll be some cool stuff. So if you have not bought a Pudgy Penguins toy, there's nothing to farm, I don't think anyway, but I would recommend go do it because it looks cool and you'd be supporting the ecosystem. And then you can get access into this Pudgy world whenever this thing goes live in Q1 of 2024. So that's really cool. All right, I've got 2 more pieces of news for you today, and then we will wrap up. The first is, speaking of the presidential campaign that's coming up in the US in 2024, Donald Trump has launched another NFT. This is $100,000 or 100,000 NFT collection. There's 100,000 of these things. This is the 3rd collection that Trump has launched. Both previous to this have sold out and are doing quite well. They've both pumped on this news. What's somewhat interesting, so they're all $99 to mint, which means if this thing sells out, Trump makes, 10 million, which is crazy. Good for him. Guy's crushing it, I guess. What's happening here is if you purchase 47 of these, so it's basically, it's his mugshot, by the way. That's what the pictures are of his mugshot. If you purchase 47 of these, and I think that's because he's the 47th president-elect, then what you get is an in real life trading card of his mugshot, but included in that is a piece of the suit that he wore during his mugshot. Very weird, very odd, but some people probably will like this. I would bet this thing gets fully minted out, which is crazy. We were having a chat in the Discord yesterday when we were going through all the news, trying to figure out like who mints this. Is it Web3 natives or like why he's even doing this? And I was like, well, maybe he's just trying to, the Web3 world and the crypto world is very political. So maybe he's trying to cater to this audience so that he can get some votes. And some of the people in the Discord were like, yeah, I don't think that's it because I don't think crypto people necessarily like this. Like it's a pretty trash NFT that doesn't do anything. That's just like whatever, which I completely agree with. This is not my cup of tea. But they were saying like, look, there's just enough Americans that just love him so much that they'll go figure out how to mint these things and they'll do it. So weird, but cool, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have much to say on this one. This isn't my cup of tea, not the kind of NFTs I want to see. I don't really care about these collectible stuff, especially when it's a mugshot card. Like it's just very weird, but it's minted on Polygon in case you were wondering. And my guess is it probably mints out, but let's see. All right, last piece of news for the day, WorldCoin, which we've obviously talked about a lot, which is trying to be an identity layer for the internet, which I think is something that the internet needs really badly. Again, I don't know if WorldCoin becomes the de facto, identity layer for the internet or not, but they're definitely pushing forward and doing some really cool stuff. So they have just launched WorldID 2.0, which is basically building off of what they've already done. So WorldCoin has a few things. They have the orb where you can verify that you are human and a unique human at that. And then that gets tied to your WorldCoin app, basically, which is, it's like a wallet, essentially, where you can do certain things, whether that's trading assets or accessing different applications and things. So WorldCoin has this new thing called WorldID 2.0. And basically what this is a passport you can think of for the internet. And it ties your identity. So whether you've scanned your orb or not, there are different sort of levels of authentication or identity. Obviously, if you've scanned your eyeball, which there's about 2.8 million people that have done this so far, that's sort of the highest level of authentication. And then there's other levels that you can do as well. But basically what this new app allows you to do is there's integrations with platforms like Reddit and Discord and Shopify and Minecraft and Telegram, etc. And it allows you to authenticate that you're a unique human, and you can log into these applications with your WorldCoin ID, which is more of like a decentralized identity rather than using something like, I don't know, Facebook to log in or Google. So cool, but nothing like too out of the ordinary just yet. The reason why I wanted to bring this one back up is, look, we need some sort of identity layer for the internet, right? We have passports to move in the physical world. We need a passport to move in the digital world. We need to know if people are real humans or not. Look at all the problems I just talked about with airdrop farming. Imagine we all had the ability to prove that we're a unique human. It would solve that problem completely. And it would make apps be able to give governance and to give rewards to people so much easier. But it's not even just that. We need to verify who's creating what content. There's a lot of issues that go on the internet of fraud, etc. This would solve all of that, right? And so there's so much need for this. And I know a lot of people hate on WorldCoin, and all I say is like, would you rather use the government form of identity or a decentralized version, right? Whether you agree with using an orb or not, or the technology stack that they have done, using ZK rollups in this orb and a self-custodial wallet and like all this stuff is still 100 times better than what your government's going to do, right? You have these fraudulent governments that take advantage of humans in every way they possibly can. And when things go wrong in the governments, they then start, doing ridiculous laws and regulations and money controls, et cetera, in many countries around the world. So like, do you really trust them to be the ones that are going to manage our IDs? And like, can they even make this sort of tech digitally? Like, not really. The tech that governments have is terrible right now for passports and for identity. And so like, I would support Sam Altman and the crew over there at WorldCoin and what they're building, because I think they're going to do a way better job, and they have first principles of decentralization and self-custody. So it's just so much better than what the government's going to do. And so I continue to support what they're doing. And so, you can check that out. WorldID 2.0, pretty cool. And that's rolling out more throughout 2024. I'm not saying you have to get your eye scanned by the orb, but definitely some cool stuff going on there. And I think identity is going to be massive play next year. So something to be watching. All right, friends. Well, that's the news. We're very grateful to have Zeneca join us today as Jay is off. A lot going on in this space. If you have not checked out our Market Watch episodes, you should do that. They come out every Wednesday. I just did one on between Sol and ETH, which is the better investment for this cycle. I dove deep into the two ecosystems. You guys need to check that one out. It's really cool, very informative. We're going to do our best to keep you guys, in the know on what's going on in the world of crypto and Web3. From now on, there's just going to be so much news. There was a bunch of stuff I didn't even get to cover today, but we're already over an hour, so I've got to stop it here. But guys, good luck out there. Be safe. Remember, there's exploits. There's going to be issues and hacks and things when you're airdrop farming. So be very, very, very careful. If you ever have questions, make sure you join our Discord. But to stay on top of things, make sure you check out our podcast. Always make sure to subscribe, do all the things. And subscribe to our newsletter if you're not. That's where you get a ton of alpha. But otherwise, friends, thank you so much for joining me here today. I wish you guys a wonderful, wonderful week.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe or follow so that you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, there's a link in the description for our free newsletter where we provide timely and relevant Web3 insights so you can confidently build and invest in Web3. Make sure to subscribe today. One final note. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto and Web3 are risky, and you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.